Okay. So, people, we are going to have a conversation. Get yourself a cup of tea. We're just going to talk, okay? There's no script, there's no real aim for this conversation. I mean, I have a general idea in mind of what I want to talk about, but we're going to try to have this conversation as friends. Basically, just like with your friends, you wouldn't have, a scripted conversation. We're going to see where this goes. So, as a kid who's born in the 90s, I was sort of fortunate to have witnessed, I think, the transition into the digital age. I mean, I remember, around like 2002 when I'm about 10 years old, 2004 when I'm about 12, um, when the digital age started making itself really known to me. The internet was getting better, computers were getting more powerful, more portable, more accessible for me because I was fairly, I guess, lucky in that way. My dad worked, I think he still works for an IT company, but point is he worked in the IT industry. So not that we had the latest and greatest, but at least I was exposed to some of the technology, right? And it was magical. To me at the time, I think everything with a screen meant the future. It represented what the future was. And what a wonderful future it was. I still remember the digital Casio watches, you know, and they were just the coolest thing, To this day, I have a watch still that is very reminiscent of that time. And again, at that time, anything with a screen was basically an improvement of what it was replacing. We had the iPod come through and replace the classic cassette tape, basically, or CD drive, CD player, and it was wonderful, right? In fact, funny story, right? One day, I'm about, by this time, I think I want to say 14 years old. So we're around 2006. And I'm not sure exactly if these dates line up, so please forgive if I make a mistake. But it's probably around 2006, and my dad are walking through a Toys R Us store. I think it was Toys R Us or some electronic store. And we're walking through, and my dad stops me. He points out what the one of the iPod Nano or iPod Shuffle cases, and he's like, "Piston, is that the is that device holding the music? Like, is that the actual MP3 player?" And I looked at it, and it was so small. And I think it was either an iPod Shuffle or an iPod Nano. And it was so small, it was so tiny that I told my dad, "No, dad, that's just the remote that you have in line with the earphones so that you can quickly change the music. But the actual device that holds the music is going to be in your pocket." You guys remember that? You guys remember when they had the wired headphones that will have the inline remote, but it was actually quite substantial. It was actually quite big. It wasn't the slimline one that eventually Apple made super popular. And then it will have all these buttons on it, right? And then that will be the thing that you will use to quickly access the music while the main device, whether that was the cassette tape or the CD drive or whatever it was listening, was in your pocket. But then I remember he walked on, and I stayed back and I looked at the sign, and he said can hold up to, like, it was either 2,000 or 8,000 songs. And I was like, well, there's no CD drive and no cassette that can hold 8,000 songs. So I was like, what if he was right? What if that tiny device was all that was needed? Now, of course, eventually, we all discovered, I mean, I discovered, and he found out as well that indeed that day I was wrong. This device, this tiny little thing, could hold this unbelievable amounts of songs. And I mean, to this day, I do not have 8,000 songs in my collection. That is still way more than enough. Like 8,000 songs. I think I have like 1,600 songs saved on my Spotify playlist. I think that's the largest one that I have. And I think that thing goes on for like days and days, hundreds of hours of listening. In fact, this is supposed to be a dynamic conversation. So let me try to find out if they tell me how many hours of listening that will be, because I'm telling you, it's way too many. 1,497 songs, but unfortunately, it doesn't give me a quick estimate of how many hours of listening that is going to be. Maybe there's going to be an AI feature that tells me that. But let's try that. 1,500 songs, average listening time. All right, let's find out for ourselves what we can expect. So about approximately 75 hours to listen to, assuming that you each song is going to be about 3 minutes. 75 hours of listening. That is crazy. That's 1500. If that thing could hold 8,000 songs from my memory, that is what, five times that, essentially. And so, man, we are looking at hundreds of hours that it would take you to listen to that song. And by that time, the way that we can listen to songs on repeat, that's enough to fill an entire lifetime, I believe. But that's what it brought. We went from a device that, maybe back in a cassette tape, I didn't listen to many cassette tapes, so I don't remember how many songs were on it, but I want to say about eight. And then you go to like CDs, which I want to say were about 16 to 32, depending on the size. I kind of spend more time with those. Maybe just 12 for like a particular album anyway. Not every single one was maximizing the CD space unless you were making your own mixtape. And then suddenly we go basically from like less than 10 to a few dozen to then 8,000. That was my childhood. That was literally, it was like one moment we are here and the next we are so far flung that my instinct is to just recoil from it and say that's not possible. That's impossible to do. And that's what technology signified. It was this massive leaps in just what was possible, right? I still remember when I first arrived in Australia and one of my, uncles pulled out his phone and it was this BlackBerry phone with so many buttons on it and so many programs it could run. And I just thought to myself, like, wow, one day I'm gonna have a phone like that. Like to me, that felt like such a boss epic phone. It felt like you could run companies from that phone. It just seemed so powerful, you know? And of course, at that time, I didn't notice any lag, any sluggishness, or bad UI, or any of these things. I was just looking at it and being like, "Whoa, a phone that can send email. That is so cool," you know? But yeah, that was it. I went, when I left Cameroon, I went from a typical mobile phone, that would just, at the time was a T9 keyboard and the favorite game on it, was a trackpad. So it was the snake game, Nokia popularized that, and Nokia was basically, that phone, that TR whatever, the impossible to destroy phone. That's what I left with to now one of the first mobile phones that I see in this brand new land, this like this BlackBerry thing that just looks like I could spend weeks, months with the thing and never hit all of the functions, right? That's at least it felt like possibility. That's what the future felt like. Digital future, when I was around that age, that 12 to 16 years of age, it just felt like possibilities were expanding so vastly that it was so exciting to try to keep up with it all. And they were good expansions. That's one thing I want to stress. They were good. They were genuinely better than what had come before. Like sure, there were, plenty of companies making copycats and everything like that. But, Apple didn't get to where they got by creating and putting out bad products. They are probably the company that in the last 50 years has been the most responsible for pushing the world in a not just a digital direction, but in a future that was generally, typically good, like typically good for like the human species. And that's what we were having. We were having this digital age and it was full of possibility and it was just great. Like I still remember the first time I played Neopets. Neopets. I think I spent hundreds of hours in Neopets. Like playing an actual game in the browser and it was free. And then we went on to, do you guys remember the Java games? I can't remember which website it was that hosted all of these games for us here, but I think it started with M. And you could go there, you could play all of these Java games again for free in your browser, and it was just like, oh my God, I remember one time when a person had bought a calculator and they had put this game on they had installed this game on the calculator. It was either some Simpsons game or some Tamagotchi game or I don't remember what the game was, but to me it was like mind blowing. Like this guy was literally, he would do this during the class. He would just, so basically what he would do is like he would sideload the game. So when he was playing the game, the calculator obviously wasn't calculator anymore. But he'd be there during maths class and he could just quickly toggle between the two modes where he would just, press a few keys, be in calculator mode. So the teacher would think like, oh my God, this guy is really like calculating sums. And then the other mode, he would just be playing this game on it. And I was just like, my God, that is cool. I still remember one of my best friends, still a best friend to this day. He had installed San Andreas on his laptop and he would bring it to school and he would just play San Andreas. And it was just, man, what a fun time that was. What a fun time. I look back at it wistfully because nowadays I realize that the digital age has gone wrong, right? It's taken a turn. It's taken a really steep left turn. Nowadays, things that come out, for example, let me put it this way. When I was 12, 16, even 18, but let's say 12 years old because that gives you that childlike fantasy, right? When I was 12 years old, a screen being added to something meant a dramatic improvement in capacity, in capability, in accessibility, typically in performance, in potential, in design. It was by and large a hugely good thing. Like again, you leave the CD player and the cassette player and you go to the iPod. Boom. You leave the T9 keyboards and everything, you go to the iPhone. Boom. You leave, your typical scientific or arithmetic calculator and you go to a graphics calculator and it's like boom, oh my God, what a graphics calculator can do. It's amazing. And it was just like these things, you leave your typical desktop tower, you go to a slimline laptop, and it's like a screen represented the future. I imagine the future where everything was a screen, which is funny because it's like careful what you wish for. But I imagined it going alongside with the good, because for the most part, those things had been good. I even remember when pedometers were a thing. Not like Fitbits or smartwatches, but just like a typical pedometer, and then having a screen on that to be able to see your steps right away. And that's all it will do. Just tell you your steps. No app, no Wi-Fi connection, no Bluetooth that failed, no trying to connect to your other ecosystems, no signing up, no logging in. Just a screen that told you the state of what the device was at. And it was like, you know? And now digital age has gone wrong. My my washing machine has an app. Now, I will say this. I give credit to my Samsung washing machine. It has been flawless as a washing machine so far. I've only had it for about 2 years. 3 years. It is an unintrusive app. I never have to touch it if I don't want to. I can completely forget that it exists, except for the sticker at the side that has a mobile phone button. But even though it is Wi-Fi connected, so far I would say that it's probably the best, use of an unintrusive app. The most that I personally interact with it on a day-to-day is that it sends me a notification when the washing is done, which can be useful to my phone. And it allowed me, when I was setting it up, to remove some of the programs that were built into the washing machine that I would never remove. Listen, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna separate my wash like that. I'm not gonna have like dedicates and then wool only, and then cotton, and then daily wear, and then athletic wear, and then jeans, and then denim, and then heavily soiled. You know what? If it's heavily soiled, I just want to wash 2 times. You know what I mean? Or I will use the soaking, program that is a pre-wash program that is pretty easy to access on the washing. But I don't need 18 different laundry programs. You know what I'm saying? Like I get so overwhelmed. One of the reasons that I chose that particular washing machine, by the way, was actually for the ability to remove some of those programs, but was also because just the interface, like the front of it, just has a knob that is pretty much blank. It uses a digital screen to tell you where you're at, and it doesn't have like 18 programs at the side. Have you guys ever seen like a Bosch washing machine, by the way? and it has like 17,000 programs that you can. Let me show you. Let me show you. We're gonna find. We're gonna take time. We're gonna take our time to have this conversation. Okay, so what do we want to do? Washing machine. Okay, and I think Bosch is like a really good example. They usually, oh man, they intimidate me. Like they both intimidate me and exhaust me pretty much right away. And I think maybe like LG washing machines do this too. But you guys will see what I'm talking about. I only need to find one example. We don't need to find them all. Um, right. Oh, these ones have actually reduced the amount of clutter they have there at the top. Let me see over here. Let's find something like this. Let's go laundry. Let's go washing machines. Oh, right, I've already gone there. Give me 1 second, guys. Some of these websites are a little bit less intuitive than you would like. So here we go. I want to find one that is like the perfect example of what I'm talking about. I want a front-load washing machine because you should always have a front-load washing machine. This Westinghouse is looking like the thing. Okay, you know what? They've actually done. I'm looking at these guys, right? And they've actually done a pretty decent job of. Here's this LG. We're gonna take this LG as a thing. Yeah, that I've seen more confusing than that. And unfortunately, though, this website doesn't give me a big uh it doesn't give me a big interface because you guys need to see it, right? So let me see over here if I can get it from a different site that will let me blow up the photo a little bit more. There we go. You know what? That might be as good as we get. Okay, there we go. There we go. Ah, this will do. Yeah, that will do. Okay, so let me show you what I'm terrified of. Do you see this knob? Do you see that? That thing gives me anxiety every time I see it. It's not that it's complicated. It's not that I couldn't get used to it. In fact, I might even like it because it's very analog and tactile. But when I see all of these programs, I think to myself, man, I really probably only need four. You know what I'm saying? Like again, I like tactility. In fact, I will go on to in this video to talk to you about how I miss tactility and it should come back. I like the fact that all of these things are actually hard coded. But the thing is, I don't like how many of them are hard coded. I wish that there was like maybe like an extra tab, where you could just go to like the extra things for things that most people will never use. Like, listen, who's going to use jeans, allergy plus, shirts and blouses? Are you really? Listen, I don't know. I don't know how people live. And I suppose I have to do it from anyone. But pretty much anything on this left hand side, they already know. You don't even go there, you know? And even on the right hand side, cottons, yes. Cottons eco, really? Really? Just do the wash. You're not being eco. Just do the wash. Okay? Just do it. Quick slash mix, dedicate slash silk. Like that's I don't know. You guys understand. This is overwhelming. Here is my washing machine, by the way. I have it in black. But this is it. You see this? Do you see this interface? I like it. That's the thing. And I knew I could go in there and I could change how many programs there are. I think at the moment I only have like 8 programs, like 4 that I use like continuously and like 4 more that I oh yeah, there's always, there's some pop-up. And 4 more that I use sparingly. But I like that. That's why I chose the washing machine. So it has this app and it's pretty good. It's pretty unintrusive and it will do the thing. But then I was looking at a toothbrush. Not necessarily to buy. I've had an electric toothbrush for years now. I've only used an electric toothbrush, I would say exclusively for like 12 years. It's one of those things that once you have, you don't really go back. It's cool. And the ones that I've always used were from Oral-B, like pretty much everyone until like Philips, like 6 years ago or whatever, decided to bring out their thing and they're kind of competing. But I think Oral-B probably has still the lion's share of the market there. But I was looking at some of the new toothbrushes, right? And it's not the first time that they've done this, they've done this for years now. But the toothbrush has an app. And I remember about 5 years ago when they first came around with that, they created an app for a thing. And I was like, okay, cool. I can kind of see, there's like a graphic apparently can show you of like your brushing technique and everything. But nowadays, I was looking at this app, I think yesterday. Again, I just stumbled upon this product, but it just made me feel so tired inside, just so exhausted. Because if it has an app, now I need to sign up to use my brush, my brush. And before you say, oh, well, you don't have to use the app, well, if I paid for it, aren't I intending to use the functionality that I paid for? So to fully use my new hypothetical toothbrush, I would have to sign up for an account to use a fucking toothbrush. And that just, oh man, that just makes my soul flatten inside of me. You know what I'm saying? It just went inside of me because I'm just like, really? There is an app for a toothbrush. What have we come to? The digital world has gone wrong. In fact, I will tell you this. When I first got my very first electric toothbrush from Oral-B, it came with a screen. And this screen will wirelessly communicate with the toothbrush. And the idea was that you put up the screen on your mirror and it would count down for you the basically the toothbrush, the recommended toothbrush which is 2 minutes, right? And then the 30 seconds per quadrant of your mouth that they recommended that you brush your teeth on. And the thing is, I think that was actually a brilliant idea. I really enjoyed using that screen. I didn't have it mounted to the mirror, I just had it on the thing, but it helped me really keep track of what I was doing. And it did it with no app, no Wi-Fi signal, no Bluetooth that I was in charge of, whatever communication protocol between my toothbrush and its screen, it was seamless. It was flawless. It worked right out of the box. All I had to do was change batteries once every, I don't know, year, maybe once a year or so, and it just worked on steadily. Then one day, it didn't work anymore. And then eventually the toothbrush failed. Okay? Which, fair enough. It's kind of still funny that a toothbrush can fail, but still, whatever, right? But then I don't think I've ever seen OOB bring out that screen again because now they want to build a profile for you. They want to spy on you. Every company wants to spy on you. Let me see if I can show you that toothbrush. Okay, let's see. OOB toothbrush with companion screen. There we go. We're gonna find it. The internet is going to serve what we are looking for. There she is. That was, man, it's kind of nice when you search for something, you find it right away. There's so many versions of this, right? Okay, so yeah, let's go. This was it. All right, give me 1 second. Right here. You see that screen right there on the right hand side? This was it. That was the screen that it came with. And like the pedometer, it was brilliant. It was an improved version of an analog process, right? Because yes, you could technically also have the countdown on the little screen on this thing. By the way, this was not my toothbrush. This seems like a more advanced model because my toothbrush didn't necessarily have a screen there. Actually, I can't remember if it did, but this wasn't it because it's not the right shape. But the point is that whatever it was, that screen there or on the handle, not as useful because when you're holding the toothbrush and using it, of course, you're covering it with your hand and you don't want to be checking it. That's weird. So this little companion screen was absolutely brilliant. It solved the problem. It did it seamlessly without asking you to pair up or wire or type in serial numbers. There was no NFC code. It just did the job. And what a wonderful little screen it was. I really enjoyed the experience of using that thing. In fact, I feel like to this day, I am far sloppier at brushing my teeth because this little thing isn't around. But nowadays, here is something that they want to sell you. They want to sell you this version, which is going to come up with smart modes. Do AI. Why does your toothbrush need AI? Why did they? My God. The future has gone wrong. The thing is, We had all of these writers, right? All of these warnings from science fiction, from Skynet to HAL 9000 to all of these, dystopian futures brought on by technology gone wrong. And the truth is that in reality, it's just fucking mundane, isn't it? It's just that it all sucks. It's not that it's going to take over the world or take all of our jobs or create mass shortages or blah, blah, blah. I mean, we'll do that for ourselves. We will create all of those disasters on our own. Don't worry about that. But the technology in the meanwhile is just going to be so fucking lame. Why do I need AI on my toothbrush? That's the truth of it. The dystopia that we are living in is so bland and so uninteresting that we are so bored of it that we don't do anything about it. That's basically it. There is an AI mode advertised, and you know what? Somewhere buried in that app, which will be locked behind a whole terms and conditions label that you will need to sit down with a lawyer that you pay way too much money for in order to make sure that it isn't stealing every single piece of data from you and recording you and selling that over to the Saudis or whatever. In order to do all of that, somewhere buried beneath all of that nonsense and login codes and passwords that you're going to forget and double factor, two factor authentication and everything like that, buried behind all of that, there's going to be somewhere in that app, I bet you, a function that works like that screen did. That did that exact same thing. Somewhere in there, I bet you there's going to be a simple timer like this. Okay, by the way, this one here, it showed the time, which was also kind of cool because time wasn't necessarily everywhere back then. It showed the time, and when you turned it on, it would just give you the little counter there. Somewhere in that app, I'm sure that functionality exists. But you have to go through so much bullshit to get there. You have to pair with your phone, you have to do the login, you have to do, oh my God. When in reality, tell me, why couldn't they just create another companion screen and just put it in the box? And then that thing will be automatically paired to your toothbrush, just like it was like at this point, what, 18 years ago? And then it will just work like it did 18 years ago. And there would be no login requirements, and they wouldn't need to have AI, and they wouldn't need to have 7 smart modes on top of presumably the dumb ones that it has advertised over here. Like what does that even say? Magnetic charger. Why is that advertised when there's always been a magnet? I don't know. I, I guess it hasn't always been a magnetic charger, but if it hasn't always been a magnetic, why does it need to be magnetic when all of the other ones were fine? And if it is a magnetic charger, does that mean that it is now not compatible with the same charger they've been using for like 20 years? My toothbrush charger now could still charge that very first toothbrush that I had all the way back, I don't know, in 2009 or whatever, when I first started using them, because the same design. So it has this platform compatible. I don't know. Like I said, the future has become so lame. That's all, really. Not even entertaining enough to take over the world, just lame enough to make us not want to participate in it. So I like cars, right? And I'm not going to sit here and pretend to you that I've been, fortunate enough to drive, a million cars and everything like that. No. In fact, I drive an old and beat down 2008 Audi A4. Very old, very beat down. I think I have like 200,000 kilometers plus on it. I don't even remember. But I think it is over 200,000 kilometers. And it that's about 160,000 miles or something for the Americans. Uh, Probably between 160 to 180. I'm not saying that 200,000 is between 160 and 180. What I'm saying is that because I don't know exactly how many thousands of kilometers are on it, it's probably between 160 and 180,000 miles on the clock. That's what I'm trying to say. So I like cars, but I don't necessarily, go out and buy cars all the time or test drive cars. Most of the car experience that I have is, family cars, friends' cars, and everything like that. So cool, whatever. But I like you to stay abreast of it, okay? I like it even though I'm more of a window shopper than an active buyer. You understand? You can forgive. So I like cars. And I want you to know that I have come to appreciate the engineering in Porsche cars, right? In particular, I want you to know from the bottom of my soul, as a person that can deeply appreciate the engineering of them, somewhat even the pedigree of a car. I don't particularly care, to be honest, because I'm not like a racing enthusiast, but I can appreciate that they have those racing chops and everything like that. But I want you to know that Porsche cars are god awfully ugly. They are some of the ugliest cars ever created, ever designed in the world. And they have never shared that legacy of ugliness. Never. Even the latest ones, which I like much more than the old ones, are but ugly. I just want you to know that. I feel like it's important that you know that because I'm not blind to how ugly they are. And I feel like anybody that pretends that Porsche cars are not ugly, you should look at them sideways because they are trying to sell you something that you shouldn't buy. So I want you to know that these cars are ugly, and I know that, but I still like them. I don't know. Maybe there's just something about having it have. Maybe it's like an ugly dog, you know? It's just been ugly for such a long time in its entire life that eventually you forgive it for being ugly. Even though in reality, it is not a dog and it is just an object, so there's no reason why they couldn't design him beautifully. But I've started to forgive Porsche for making ugly cars. And in forgiving them for making ugly cars, I've looked past that ugliness and I've started to appreciate the engineering inside. Now, what I want to say is this: the car has been not perfected, but mastered. Okay? The functionality of the car, your car nowadays, well, not even nowadays, a car from like 2010 does everything you could possibly want a car to do. Nowadays, they're just adding extra functions that we quite frankly don't need. I remember when Tesla first came out with the Model S, and then at some point they made an update and you could play games on that. And I thought at the time, wasn't that the coolest thing? Now, I know the answer is no. That is not the coolest thing. Why would I want to play a video game in my car? No, it's fine. There's too many other devices. There's too many other, no, we don't need a car that plays Doomslayer or whatever, It is nice though when you have like a car that plays like Mario Kart. It's like a party trick, it's a gimmick. And gimmicks are okay. They just shouldn't be taken as anything other than gimmicks, right? So, anyways, the Porsche Cayenne. The Porsche, it is a Cayenne, it saved the company. Now they have the 2026 Cayenne coming out. This is what it looks like. Let me show you. It's still oh my god, it's still but ugly. Like, it is embarrassing how ugly this car is. It's like I think in the United States it's like at $110,000 or some shit. And in Australia it's probably like 180 to start because we have like taxes on top of taxes for luxury vehicles. And my god, that is so ugly. That is so ugly. It also looks like what it looks like? It looks like a Porsche designed by a Chinese brand that wanted to pretend that they were selling a Porsche, but without any of the branding. Like, it looks like a Chinese knockoff of what a Porsche would be, designed by Porsche. It's so ugly. And I want you to know, it's still an improvement on the last model, which was even uglier because they've only ever been ugly. So this is not even like a I like the back though. I will say this. I like the back. I like the back. It looks better when the light bar is actually lit up. They have like a double light bar situation. Porsche logo there. It's cool. I like the look from the back. That's always been funny. I like not always. The previous generation and this one I've liked the back better. Um and yeah, I like kind of this whoever designed the rear, like from the B pillar backwards. Yeah, he did good. Whoever designed the front, asshole. Or maybe it's the same person, just constrained by the legacy of ugly because they wanted to be recognizably Porsche. But I feel like they shouldn't. I feel like they should just give up on that design and should just start over. But then people in the car enthusiast world, which if you're going to sell a car that is this expensive for almost no reason, then you're going to need to appease those people. And they are probably, yeah, anyways, I won't talk about them. But the point is they wouldn't be happy. So they probably have to for business decisions. But for the sake of the world, I wish that they had not put this thing out. into the world. It looks so bland, so generic, and it looks like it has an iPhone camera hole in the middle. And that's ugly. I hope you would agree. This, by the way, is the electric version, which, by the way, um, I like electric cars in theory. There's no issue with them. It's a propulsion system. Honestly, people shouldn't get that opinionated about the propulsion that makes it like it's like made. It's either fossil fuel powered or electric powered. Yes, there are practical considerations, environmental considerations for both of those, but people get disproportionately passionate about them regardless, I feel. So, anyways, this is just the electric version. This is why probably this part over here doesn't need as much ventilation because it doesn't have to cool down, a dinosaur powered, nuclear reactor basically inside the bonnet. So that's probably why it has such a bland face over here. But it looks so bad. That is, it probably looks better in black. Let's try that. Yeah, that looks better simply because it gets to kind of take out the iPhone camera cutout a little bit there in the middle. Yeah, it's probably better. Let's go. Yeah, they had it in a kind of green as a thing. Eesh, that looks disgusting. Oh my God. Let's see it from the back. Oh, that's awful. Jesus Christ. Okay, that's much better. Do not get this gold, whatever that is. Jesus. That's hideous. This is decent. Yeah, in this blue. This might be the nicest color. You gotta have a dark color to take out some of that. Yeah, that thing. It just looks like a dot. It's just bad. I don't like it. I don't like it. Anyways, I want to talk about the interior because really this was about showing you the interior. We weren't supposed to talk about how ugly the exterior is, but I'm glad we did. I think you are glad that we did too because we have to acknowledge that. Otherwise, it's really hard to have a conversation until we get out of our system. Let's make this interior in this color because that's nice. So, anyways, I want to talk about the interior and I want to talk about Tesla cars. Tesla came out, and I think Tesla should have been, in retrospect, in hindsight, it should have been my first biggest, massive, planet size red flag that the digital era has started to go to shit. Because Tesla came out and then decided to delete the stocks from the steering wheel and to make everything in the car operated basically by the central screen, including the speed. We're having no driver's cluster, instrument cluster behind the steering wheel. That should have been my first sign as a person, but I was still blinded by the hype and the electric cars. And back then I was so naive as to what the electricity for cars and propulsion was going to do. I was really a big fanboy for electric cars, and I think I had every right to be. In fact, I would say that I'm still as big a fanboy for the electric cars. What I'm not a fan of is how it's all being implemented. Sometimes an idea comes out not necessarily too early, but in a place that is so hostile to make it as good as it could be, that it itself becomes rather a point of frustration, and it's also nuisance rather than being a good thing that it should have been. Electric cars should have been the blessings. There haven't been. There's many reasons for that. We won't talk about it in this video. Let's continue. So that should have been the biggest sign because it was the first time for me personally that adding a screen to something did not mark a net improvement in what was already available or even a sidestep, because there were still hints, even before the Tesla Model S became super popular and it caught my attention. There were still hints of things where they were kind of like sidesteps. They were no longer a leap forward. You were kind of like putting screens in places where that information could have been conveyed in other ways and was conveyed in other ways before, and it was about as good before. But now you added a screen and you made it more expensive for using that screen as a justification. Even though come to find out the screen didn't add much to the build of materials for the thing. But the point is, Tesla was that impossible to miss red flag, which I missed. And they removed all of these things and they put the driver controls in the center screen. And I think that if that wasn't enough, I should have caught it. And I think they did this. If they didn't do it, then they were one of the people that um that created this movement where the glove box itself had to be opened from the screen. They literally deleted the latch. That I feel bad about that one. Yeah. I would say that I was too blinded by my love for electric cars and electric propulsion so that I can justify that. I can hold that up versus the screen and deleting of the stocks. I can hold them up and be like, that's the reason why. And I feel like, yeah, I could argue my way out of that. Maybe if a person that was arguing against me was drunk and blind and deaf and wasn't paying attention, I could probably argue my way out of that. But the fact that they made it so that you had to use the screen to use the glove box, and I didn't realize how fucking dumb that was immediately. Yeah, there's no coming back from that one. That one is that's an offense. So point is they've had a big outsized impact on the industry. And for the longest time, a lot of companies have tried to chase that to make everything digital. At the beginning, I thought it was the same thing that I was exposed to in 2012. Things were getting better. We had 360-degree cameras, which were genuinely amazing. We had, better infotainment systems that were no longer going to lag or be designed so poorly. They brought the focus on the infotainment experience in such a strong way that I think we got something good out of it. Like I still remember BMW's, is it iDrive? I think it's either 6 or 7. I think iDrive 7 is like really, really good, and iDrive 8 like fucks it all up. Basically, it's one of those. It's either is like 6 is like the Windows XP. I think 7 is like Windows 10, and like 8 and 9 are like Windows Vista and just it's just bad, kind of if you get the analogy there. But the point is, there was a time when Tesla pushed other manufacturers to make the infotainment system much better than it was before. And that was a net positive, even though they had gone way too far and they are kind of slid off cliff and you shouldn't follow them. But then I feel like Tesla was like it had a gravity pull to it. So for a while, they brought the industry forward and then they brought the industry into the lurch. And now you had companies like Audi create two screens, one for your infotainment and one for your climate controls, which look cool in photos, but it was one of those things. It was a tablet on a fridge door, like Samsung has done. Which is like, oh yeah, it looks cool until you think about it and you're like, why do I need a tablet on my fridge door? A question that no human has ever been able to answer to convincingly. So, Audi created that secondary screen for the climate control, and it was a worse experience than using just a standard climate control cluster with buttons and tactility, which, as I said back in the washing machine part, I was going to talk about buttons and tactility. But the point is, we went through all this time, and like, have you guys seen Mercedes MBUX? Oh my goodness, with the hyper screen. Let me show you. Mercedes MBUX hyper screen. Let me show you. Let me show you something. In case you guys haven't been paying attention to the colossally stupid things we have now gone to. Yeah. We just did this one. Oh, I was actually this whole time I'm showing you the screen. I thought I would need to show you the screen. Anyways, here it is. As you can see. Why? Why? Look over here. Look over here. You see here, what they've done is they've tried to give us a false compromise. Like, I don't know, like the Greek gods of old and tragedy occurs. They've tried to put the climate controls right at the bottom. But who asked them to? Who asked for it is a passenger screen? Like, what I'm trying to say is that overall, technology has gone to the point where they're no longer being a sidestep to what has come before, the analog work that they replaced. Now that they step backwards, like there's several gigantic steps backwards from there. So it's all gone to shit. Because this is shit This is yes. Listen, the big main screen that can be fine, but the fact that I need to have widgets for my music, widgets for this, like, why can that be in a separate place? Why can't this screen up here be smaller? I don't need the map that gigantic. I don't. And what else am I gonna have there? Am I gonna watch, like, I don't know, how many away from the screen? If I could afford this car, wouldn't I be able to afford a home that would house this car and in that home have a better media watching experience? I don't need a 15-inch screen for my infotainment. It's okay. Like, damn. Especially if that 15-inch screen comes at the cost of, tactility and buttons and user safety when I'm driving, because I don't have to look down all the time and figure out, I don't know, man. You guys understand the point. You guys know what I'm talking about. So, anyways, there's a new Cayenne, right? And I kid you not, even though I am not the target customer for this, and I may not ever be the target customer for this, because let's face it, spending in Australian dollars $200,000 to $400,000 on a car, it's a bit ridiculous, right? So even though all of that, I was looking forward to this model. And the reason I was looking forward to this model is that a lot of manufacturers have expressed that they will bring back more buttons into their cars, especially for climate control, because we need to access it all the time. And so I was looking forward to this car the most. And what they've done in this car, aside from giving it the electric propulsion system, which again is a separate issue from the infotainment thing and the user experience thing, what they've done is they've made the screens better. This screen, I kid you not, is technically a better screen than the last time that it was around. But in making the screen better, they have made so many stupid decisions. First, it's a curved screen, okay, which gives you this weird effect. If you guys go and look up this screen in operation, it has such a weird cascade waterfall effect when you're scrolling through items, like in your Spotify app, that need to like go across the curve. It's so mind tripping. I feel like that by itself could create accidents. But then they had the whole thing with the climate control things at the very bottom. Again, no buttons. Actually, no, they have the buttons like right down at the bottom. Unfortunately, I can't find a photo of this over here. But they have like part of the buttons at the bottom of the screen. It's like in between the screen and that little handhold there. That's where they are. So they brought some of it back, but not the entire functionality of your climate control system can be had there. At the moment, I knew that this car was something that honestly I will never buy. I'm gonna say it, I will never buy. Now, if I could win the car or whatever, somebody just came and says, "Oh, here's your car," like sure, I'll drive it. But I will never buy is the fact that you cannot change the air path of the climate vents unless you go into the screen. So you know how normally you have like a little knob where you can adjust where the airflow goes on your little climate vent? And this is not the first time that they've done it. I think the first did it with like the Porsche Taycan. But it was dumb then and it is dumb now. If you want to change where the air goes, you have to go through the screen. Not the little panel with buttons at the bottom. No, the screen. Because I don't get it. Why can't you just have the little thing that we could just drag around like we've always been able to for like, I don't know, man. When was that standardized, man? I don't know, like 80 years ago? Let's be honest. I don't know. But the point is, you have to go through the screen. And the moment I saw that, I literally thought to myself, this is a failed product. It's a failure. It's a failure because it has once again decided to prioritize looking futuristic over being actually, I want to say, humanistic, like made for humans. Like, who are these people making cars for? I feel like they're making cars for a future version of humanity, 10,000 years in the future, where we all have neural implants and we can simply telepathically tell the car what to do. Because why would I want to, in the middle of a highway, driving a 2-ton monstrosity too fast, right, at unbelievable speeds, look down for several seconds, which, by the way, translates to a colossally alarming amount of distance covered just to change the airflow. Because also, it's not a one button thing. You have to press, I think, 2 or 3 buttons just to get there, and you won't ever remember where these fucking buttons are because it's not tactile. So you can't even build muscle memory. You have to look down each and every time. And that's if you want to change it. God forbid a guest walks into your passenger right shotgun with you and they don't know where it is. So now you have to look down still because you're not going to educate them and be like, oh yeah, click that button. No, no, the fourth one from the right. Like, oh, it would just be faster to do it yourself. So, that's annoying. It's a failed product. Now, as part of creating this better screen, which would be better still if it had not been as big a screen and had actually given you proper control and tactility all around the cabin. But as part of creating this better screen, they created this little armrest moment here. You see, you're going to be using this screen so much and so often that they created for you an armrest where you can rest your hand just so you can click on that screen because it's no longer a one button thing or quickly tap on this thing anymore. They know you're going to be spending centuries trying to deal with this screen, so they've created a home for your palm. They created this palm rest here for you that is exclusively meant for you to use the screen. And on top of that, what they've done as part of this, what they've sacrificed is access. You will notice this if you pay attention. Access to the cup holders. Your cup holders are somewhere buried beneath your central console thing here. But even though you can slide this backwards so that they are kind of semi-accessible, they are buried somewhere deep down there. So the drinkability has been sacrificed in order of, at the altar of screenage. This is not the digital age that I grew up knowing. This is it gone disastrously wrong in a fabulously expensive car. And I feel like this car represents the age that we are in. We are having digital solutions to non analog problems, if that makes sense. Because before, a lot of the screen things that we had were replacing like analog problems. Like for example, let's go back to my classic example here, the iPod like Nano or whatever, or even just the big fat boy iPod versus the cassette tape. The cassette tape didn't give you metadata information, album art, tell you what song you're on. If you didn't know the name of the song and you didn't check the tape or whatever, you wouldn't know. But now we had this screen and it gave you all this extra information. It was richer, it was better, it gave you the album art. You could recognize an album more visually, it was cool. And the truth is that what we had there was an era where, unbeknownst to us, the digital component was working symbiotically. It was in a symbiosis with the tactile component because the classic iPod had both. It had tactility and it had the digital side. They enhanced each other's functions and they worked in tandem, not against one another, but with one another. What was meant to be tactile remained tactile. And what was meant to be digital, what was enhanced by being digital, only those functions were made digital. For example, again, taking the iPod, the songs being digital was a net improvement in the usability of the product. Again, audio file, song quality, and everything like that, there's always caveats to these things we understand. Don't get on the high horse. But it was better in so many ways. But the volume rocker, that was a tactile experience. All of us could change the volume without looking down on our iPods. All of us could do so, you know? Changing the next track, that was a tactile experience. Pausing, tactile, you know? All of these things that were best left to tactility and buttons and physical controls were left alone. And the digital side only was applied where it made sense. Oh man, I miss that age of design, that respect for the tactility, the solidity, the physicality, the presence of a real world and the interaction that you can have between other. All of this is to say that I like gaming on PlayStation. Oh yeah, was all an extended introduction to why I like gaming on PlayStation. I asked myself, why do I like gaming? The truth is that I like games. Yes. Also, I like games because, yes. Also, I like games because to me, video games are a narrative medium even before they are an interactive or a mechanical medium. What I mean by that is, I remember the first game that I truly fell in love with, and that was The Prince of Persia back in the whatever days. The one that got 60 minutes ago, Save the Princess. Never did. She's still trapped by Zafar or whatever his name was. Still feel bad about that. I still feel guilty that I never beat that game. But to me, it was like, holy, I have a story, I have a quest, I have this thing. I knew I was in that world, I knew what I was fighting for. I was this white prince of Persia. Oh, that's interesting. Anyways, the point is, I was a prince of Persia and I had a queen to save. And that was enough for me to make stories out of, to set my imagination aflame. And to me, that's what video games have always represented to me. To me, a video game is always more analogous to a book. No, maybe not this particular book because it's a very technical book, but a book, a story being told, a novel, than it is analogous to almost anything else. So I've always appreciated that. Um, so even in the games that I play, I am very comfortable playing a game like Citizen Sleeper, which has, quote unquote, very little gameplay, or playing like a Telltale type game, because to me, the medium of video games is first and foremost a narrative one. If, for example, you were to say, Emmanuel, what are you more typically likely to enjoy? A game like Doom the Dark Ages, or a game like Lost Records, which I'm looking forward to playing, but I haven't played yet, or Life is Strange, which I have played, or a game like Life is Strange, I would say that I typically would prefer a Life is Strange because that's what I look for. I look for stories in video games. And I was thinking to myself, why do I like video games, right? And that narrative medium was the first answer. But the second answer was what we were talking about before. To me, video games, they give me a break from the tomfoolery that's out there. The fact that so many things require an app, a Wi-Fi connection, the fact that I look with disappointment at brand new car releases from brands that honestly should know better, especially with all of that. Like, listen, Porsche won't ditch the ugly ass design for the exterior of the car because of legacy or pedigree or whatever the fuck. But they will ditch the practical design of air vents that have a mover thingy majiggy so you can direct the airflow. For what? Because now if you change it through the screen, that means there are motors that need to change where the air vents, are pointing. If there are motors in your air vent to change where the blades are pointing, that's one more point of failure. By the way, that car, one of the options for it is you can get back seats, which I mean you get back seats, but those back seats can be raised or lowered electronically, which sounds cool because there's a motor that can raise and lower the seat for you. Until you realize two things. First, that thing is fucking slow. Second, that thing is fucking loud. And third, yes, bonus thing, you can only do it electronically. Why? Listen, I don't mind having motorized seats. It's cool. But man, can we either make these things faster or something? Or can we give me the option to manually override it? And listen, for the front seat, the driver's position or whatever, I actually prefer for it to be electronic simply because you can have memory seats. And if you give your car to your mechanic or to your partner or whatever, you don't have to go ahead and dial in your position again because that you never feel like you never feel like you get it quite right again the subsequent times. Like it always feels like it was right, that one time when you first got in the car, like 17 centuries ago, and then every single time that you've dialed it back in, it has never felt quite as good. So I like the fact that you can do it once and you can save it to the memory. That part is good. And I also don't mind it for the passenger as well for the same reason. That's cool. The first two seats being electronic, even if they are slow, even they're a little bit loud, even if they're motorized, that's fine. In fact, that's preferred and is desirable. But the back seats being motorized when they are slow, when they are loud, and when they can only be adjusted manually, that's just crazy. That's crazy, Tom. Make those models better or get rid of them. Just let it be manual again. I always thought it was cool until I saw until I saw someone doing it and I was like, damn, that's shit. Anyways, back to video games. So video games I break from all of that. I like it. And I was thinking to myself, okay, if you like video games, but why do you like playing on PlayStation? And um I realized that the reason I like playing on PlayStation is because it allows me to get into the game, and it's a little bit like my Samsung washing machine app. It is a digital platform. I do have to log into it, and everything. Not every day, obviously, but it does, it does ask me for my email and password and creates a bunch of data that Sony probably sells to companies that they shouldn't be selling to, but still. It's unobtrusive, okay? And let me show you. I wanted to show you this. The reason I don't like playing on PC is this. This one thing is going to show you every reason I don't like playing on PC. So Microsoft has made of the PC, they've made you the product. I want you to know that I paid for the operating system in this PC. Paid for it. What? I paid for that. I bought the key to have, a legitimate version of Windows and everything like that. And the weather app on the Windows PC, the standard weather app, like if you press your start button, type in weather, the one that comes up, was brilliant for years. Brilliant, I want you to know. Absolutely well designed for years. I remember, especially like 2016 to 2018, I used it almost every day. I absolutely loved the app. It had zero ads on it. It was just a nice, clean interface. It was absolutely wonderful, and it was chef's kiss. Then Microsoft did this. Look at this. This is a screenshot I took of the app. The only reason that I took a screenshot is because I don't want my location showing or whatever. Point is, I live in Melbourne, Victoria, if you in case you didn't know. But point is, I didn't want my precise suburb showing, so I took a screenshot. Yeah, look at this. What the hell are we doing? This is not like some kind of Photoshop or anything like that. You might be thinking, man, what kind of ads are those? Yeah, that's the kind of ads it gets now. This is it. And if you go to your operating system, obviously you could open up your own weather app and see for yourself that they've put ads right when you open the app. Let me show you what really show what it used to feel like. I'm not going to say that it was always ad free. Maybe there were ads, but it was the bottom. So here is my Samsung phone, right? Let's put it right here. You see, this is the weather app. Do you see this? Do you see how there's no ads until you go all the way down, past the way down? Here's where they have the apps right at the bottom. But for the most part, I never go down that far. I usually just go down to like the sunset times right there. But then, boom, look at that. Look how clean that is. That is what we used to have. We had that equivalent on the weather app. But Microsoft has decided to make of you the product. And nowadays, if you press your start button, and you start searching for anything, it just doesn't matter what it is, just pressing like FD or something. First, you're going to see results from the web. Why? if I'm in my Windows operating system and I'm typing search, I want a local search. I don't want, like, why am I forced to have Bing search alongside local results? It just makes everything so tedious and unbelievable. But if that wasn't enough, just delete everything that you've done. Okay. So, okay, you know what? Let me show you. Let me show you this. Okay. Now, if you see something you're not supposed to see, don't dox me. Okay. Don't be a dick about it. But over here, let me show you. See this? Look at this. Nice simple start menu. You're like, hey, nothing wrong with that. Okay, cool. No problem. Type in the search. Look at this. Look at this. What is this? What is all this? Why am I being advertised to? Okay. Why? Why? I paid for this. This isn't free. What the hell? This isn't free. Why do I have all of these ads over here? And I feel like when I'm trying to game on PC, I feel like I'm always connected to this world that is trying to advertise to me, that is trying to steal my mind, that is trying to steal my thoughts, that is trying to insidiously just dig into my soul and extract from me as much value as they are not allowed to take. I feel that direct connection whenever I try to play on PC. There's always something. When I play on PlayStation instead, what I like when I open up the PlayStation is that it has the welcome hub. And that hub is a thing that I got to customize entirely on my own. I only see the widgets that I want to see. And the thing is, I don't mind advertisements. I understand that companies have to try to make money from the products. I don't mind it. So I don't mind when I tab over to the PlayStation Store, which is the next one tile on the left, if I remember correctly. And that will have all of the advertisements and the things they're trying to sell me and blah, 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 blah. I go to the shop, I understand I will be advertised to. But otherwise, when I click away from that and I go through the games, I don't see any ads. There's no ads for PlayStation Plus. There's just the games that I have, right? And then there's a welcome hub that I fully customize. And then when I'm in the game, I like the fact that, like my Samsung washing machine, even though my PlayStation is technically a smart device, right? Smart. All of these things are dumb. They're just connected to the internet. But even though it's technically a smart device, it's quite unobtrusive. I can interact with the parts of it that I want to interact with, and then I can leave behind the parts of it that I don't want to. The other day, I don't even know what I was doing. I was using a computer, right? It's the thing that I use. And it decided in the middle of me working on a project to just shut down and restart and do a Windows update. That was rude. Why? Why do I not have control over my own device? That's the truth, isn't it? Because these companies, they sell you these products, and nowadays they want to pretend that you didn't pay for them. They want to pretend that they know best when to update your product, when to give you particular notifications, when to advertise to you. Like Microsoft, for example, doesn't want you to create just a local account for the operating system anymore. There's no reason that Microsoft needs you to log into a Microsoft account to have an account on your own computer. No reason whatsoever. They don't need that. Your operating system never uses any part of your user login data to give you a better operating system performance. All it does is just more money for advertisers so that they can build a profile and put ads in your search menu or whatever, like I showed you. That's all. The only thing that is slightly convenient that it might do if you use OneDrive is that it logs you into OneDrive and it can make things work easier with Office apps as well. But that is a very tertiary benefit because not everybody uses OneDrive, no matter how much Microsoft wants to push it. So I like the fact that on the PlayStation, it's just it reminds me of the digital experience where it had the digital component and the tactility and it was symbiotic because one wasn't trying to take over the other. And the thing is that, again, even though PlayStation has an app and I can control some things from there, it is unobtrusive. It is forgettable. I bet you there's lots of people, probably most people in the world, that have a PlayStation 5, own a PlayStation 5, including a PlayStation 4, by the way, it also works there. But they've never downloaded the app. It's good that it can work on its own. Just like my washing machine. I don't feel that so far the digital components, the digital elements of the PlayStation 5 have necessarily gotten in the way of what the tactile experience was supposed to be, the way that Porsche Cayenne, gets in the way of changing what the airflow is, if you can understand that analogy. Because the world has gone to shit. And the PlayStation 5, to this point, still as a hardware device, it reminds me of that, where things are enhanced but not necessarily replaced or recessed or regressed from where they used to be. It's just a nice steady advancement from what I got from all of the previous PlayStations that came before. To me, the PlayStation 5 is the best PlayStation hardware they've ever created. And again, I like the fact that it has USBs at the back that I can plug in a standard hard drive to, or SSD. I like the fact that it has an expandable storage that I can put in standard size NVMe drives and get them to work. I like the fact that the DualSense, controller is a tactile controller, and it does have screens on it. It's not trying to, you know, digitize, the actual physical buttons. I like that I'm not pressing on a touch screen to get that. So it's just been, I feel like it's been a very thoughtful approach to it. I like the fact that when I go into the operating system the first time, I don't get a splash screen advertisement, which the Xbox did at some point. And I remember Xbox people trying to pretend that, oh, because you can back away with one button, it wasn't a big deal. No, it is a big deal. You bought that device. When you buy something, you shouldn't try to make a product out of you. It should just be the product. You should use it. It shouldn't use you to get advertisers closest to you. God, I hope PlayStation never does that. You know, if I want to be advertised to, let me go to the store. I know where the store is. I can find it. You know, same thing with anything else. If I want, I am okay with being advertised to when I'm in the mood for it. Let me come to, like, again, if I go to a shopping center, I cannot complain that shops are trying to get me to shop. That's fine. But when I'm at home, maybe I don't want Target to be sending me messages, whether by email or by actual mail. You know what I'm saying? So I like that. I think that the PlayStation reminds me, it feels like a very analog gadget for me, especially because, as I will always advocate for, I love using physical media. I don't mind digital. I really, really don't. For example, I am a subscriber to PlayStation Plus. I have it until I think December of this year, actually, is going to expire. But in the meantime, I'm a subscriber to PlayStation Plus, and all of those games are digital. I don't mind downloading them and playing them and everything like that. But for the games that I buy, I always go to physical copies as much as I can anyway. I remember that Clear Obscure is a game that I bought digitally, but that's because there were no physical copies around. That thing just like, they did not see the popularity coming. So I don't mind digital, but I like the physical. And these days, all of this conversation, what it's been leading to is that I want things that are more analog. But I don't necessarily want to go back to the 1990s, I want a balance. And for me, one of the objects that I have in my life that brings me the most joys, that I feel gets this right, is my Kindle. This is, hold on, it's gonna do the thing. There you go. This is my Kindle. This one is this model is called the Oasis. It's the first generation Oasis, which was ridiculously expensive when it came out. But I was lucky. I used Gumtree at the time, and I got this one from an Asian guy, an Asian student who was going back to China, I think, and he wanted to sell it. So even though it was Chinese, the operating system and everything, I was able to call up Amazon and get them to like flash the English version or something. So that got rid of the advertisements, because otherwise there were advertisements on it. But What I like about this is that there are no ads. There are still physical buttons. It's kind of hard to see in this particular light, but there's physical buttons here, which is funny because this is a touch screen, right? Okay, and then the other ones are touch screens also, like the paper white models and everything. But honestly, let me tell you, if you have a choice between a brand new Kindle Paperwhite and a, like new used example of a Kindle Oasis, get the Oasis simply because of their physical buttons. The fact that this is tactile, it like literally the screen is just right there, but the joy you get from just pressing the button and having it turn is so, it's so amazing. It is the closest thing that you can get on an e-reader to physically turning the page, but nowhere near as satisfying as turning the pages on a book, of course. But it's the closest that you can get. But what I like about this device is that it does one thing well, and it does it in this model in a way that is tactile. Now, again, do not pay for the brand new version of Kindle Oasis. It's way too expensive and you will never use the other features because it's supposed to just be an e-reader, guys. I don't know why they need to make like a billion other things to just put the price at like $400. It's ridiculous. But if you can find a good used example of the Oasis, bruh, this is the way to go because it's absolutely bloody perfect, you know? And I like it because there are no ads. I think even when I go to the home screen, okay, there's some advertisements on the home screen, technically. Yeah, there's like bestsellers on Kindles and topics for you. But the good thing about it that I don't mind is I can just click on the library icon, which is right there. It's a little bit slow, this device, and then I can just have my entire library right there, and then that can be cool, you know. Apparently this is what I've been reading the moment on here. So, there's a little bit about my reading history. So, think of it what you will. Oh, I'll shout out this book. Okay. At the bottom there's a book that says You, Me, and the Colors of Life. That is a really wonderful book. I don't know who it's by. It's uh by Noah C. Walker. This is a really wonderful book. I haven't read it in a while, but when I read it, it was so impactful, and I was like, "Damn, this is a book I should really tell people about." So, You, Me, and the Colors of Life is really good. I really like this device. I like the tactility. All of that is to say, I want to go to a world that is more analog, but analog in this way, in the way that the Kindle is, not in a cassette tape way. I don't want to rewind all the way back to the 1980s, but I want to rewind back to like the 2000s when the digital side was complementary to the analog side. I was thinking I should call it like a fancy term, like digital for digital and tactile. So that's what we're going to call it. I want a digital world where it is digital, where it is best digital, and it is analog for the things that matter for the soul of a product. Because I've been noticing it, you know. My headphones that I love, whether it's the black ones over here. So these ones are by Bowers and Wilkin. Oh my god, these are so good, right? And I have other ones over here by Bang& Olufsen, which is probably my biggest fanboy company. If you guys think I fanboy for PlayStation, which by the way I don't, but if you were to think that, man, the amount of fanboy, you guys will get sick of me with this with this brand. Just B&O is, oh my god. I would I would sell other people's souls in order to, have more of these products around my house. But what I like about these products is the tactility. Nowadays, too many headphones have touch interfaces. Why? Why? I don't want to touch. Give me buttons I can press, please. It works so well. I don't, and I mean, especially in this headphone, it is not even particularly great buttons. The button layout is a little bit stupid, to be honest. But the fact that it's a button means that, I mean, I will show you this. Do you see the scuff marks there? Hold on, let me show you. Let me show you. Come on, lose my face. You see those scuff marks? That's because I use this almost everywhere, and I refuse to replace them because even the newer ones, I think from these guys, even they have gone to touch interfaces, and I don't care how good it is. A touch interface is always inferior. A touch interface can be better than the last touch interface or the next touch interface from another competing product, but it's always inferior to just a fairly average physical interface. I just want physical controls, guys. Just physical controls where they make sense. Please, if you are designing a product ever in your life, please just put the physical controls where they make sense for the most access things, for the most, just if you can do it with physical control, just do it with the physical control. It's gone to the point where people, designers, need to think to themselves, not is there an analog function that I can make digital, but rather is there a digital function that I can make analog again, or that I can make analog for the first time? Because that's wonderful. So, anyways, in my life now, going forward for the next few decades, I'm going to try to re-analogify my life as much as possible. Tactility is something that I value so much more nowadays. And video games to me are tactile experiences. They remind me of pages of novels, of stories, of adventures, of wonderful things. But they get me in the same frame of mind, the same kind of satisfaction that I have when I interact with a really well made tactile object. Like again, if money was no object, I think one of my cameras would definitely be, no matter how much I try to resist it, one of them would definitely be a Leica camera. Definitely. I don't know which one. I wouldn't get a Leica film camera because I don't want film, to be honest. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, film shooters. You guys are wonderful. I think you're heroes, but I do not want some of the downsides that film photography entails. But I want tactility in my life. I want to bring tactility in my life. And a Leica camera is such a great example of just a wonderfully designed, pleasurable to use tactile object. Tactility matters. So I'm creating a photo book for myself. You guys may know this or you may not know. I'm a photographer. I take photos. That's, I guess, what qualifies you as being a photographer. And I'm creating a photo book for myself. When I first got into photography, I did it not because I wanted to become a photographer, but because I wanted to put images around my home that I felt proud of. So for example, that image back there in the background, you can kind of see it. I took that. All of the following images that I will show you in here, I've shot those. I'm going to show you this. This is a work in progress. None of these images are final. They're all by me. Okay, I will say that. They're all mine. They're all mine. And I'm working through this at the moment. So it's nowhere near done. I would say it's about probably 13% complete. And that's being generous, probably closer to 6%. But I'll show you this because we're supposed to have conversations as friends now. And so we can show each other things that are not necessarily ready for prime time. And you'll forgive me for that. So none of this is probably, again, I'm working through it, okay? All of this is got placeholder text and everything and placeholder images for the most part, especially this first section. But as I show you some of these photos, I'll tell you why I got into photography. So I got into photography because I wanted to be able to have beautiful images around the home. And when I would look at, people's places, like having people that had like coffee books and everything like that, I always thought to myself, like, how many of those coffee books are actually read and enjoyed by the people that bought them? Right? So many people seem to buy these coffee books because, they are from a particular brand or because they have a particular aesthetic, like I've seen so many copies of that Tom Ford book, so many copies of there is it like a beautiful home book or whatever? I think it's a Live Beautiful or whatever. And there's just so many copies of that because all these designers, they get inspired from each other and everything like that. So I was like, well, that's cool, but I would like to be able to, one day print a photo book that is so worthy, of existing, that not only does it feel my own, but maybe I could like give it to some of my friends and then they go to experience photos that they might connect with simply because they know who the artist is behind it. So, oh, by the way, but you will see a lot of blank pages here. Again, lots of placeholder. These are just like the beginning. I was getting a sense of like what I wanted over here. But yeah, so that's why I got into photography. But I actually wanted it more for like the images around, like images on the wall, for the same kind of reason to be able to connect with it, to have sentimentality. Like for example, right? Lots of people will get like a Van Gogh or a painting by a famous artist or even a not so famous artist. But I was like, well, those people are just human at the end of the day. And they were able to create their art and share it with the world. And while I don't necessarily have aspirations that one day I'm going to sell these photo books for like hundreds of dollars or sell paintings for thousands or millions of dollars or whatever, I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm worthy enough that in my own humble abode, I can have my own art on the wall. Maybe I can be arrogant enough to think that. So this is technically the second photo book that I've created. The first one that I created was like only a few months in much of my photography. I look back on that book and I see it as a first step. I'm not necessarily proud of the photos or even the amount of effort that I put in. So as I was looking around, and I have lots of photo books in my house, right, from other photographers, amazing people that inspire me, and I try to actually read those things. Not necessarily every day, but I try to connect with those photo books as much as I can when I remember to do so. But I was like, you're not satisfied with your own photo book. In my entire house, the hardest photo book to find will be one my own, the one that I made like 7+ years ago. So I was like, well, it's maybe time to have, an update, and then create this update for yourself. Oh, by the way, you see this photo here? This one of the 12 apostles looking thing. Yeah, technically it's not the 12 apostles, but it looks like them. The rocks in the sea. That's the photo that's back behind me. That's the one that's printed behind. So in case you couldn't tell, well, there it is. So that's cool. But yeah, so I decided to create like an update. And to be honest, this is going to take me probably the better part of a year to put the things together. Because I have to select the photos that I'm going to pick. I have to select the proper placements and everything like that. This is one of my favorite photos ever. This one over here. It's a little bit in this particular square grid, it's a little bit of a shame because it doesn't show the full grandeur of that particular photo. I really like it. So, things will move around. One day, if I decide to share again about this little project of mine, when I feel like it's completed, and I would like to print it, obviously. We just don't design it just for the fun of it. But yeah, maybe one day I will share like the updated version, and that photo will probably move to a place where it has a little bit more real estate. Um, yeah, so that's a project I'm doing at the moment. But I was doing this and I was asking myself why, Yes, everything that I said before about having my own art and connecting, but I realized that more than that, there's something in me that craves tactility. That's really what I want. I want something where people don't interact with my photos in a digital way because I've got these photos on my tablet, my phone, sometimes, let's face it, I'm quite bad at keeping track of my photos unless it's on my computer. It's very hard to find my photos. So it's kind of a good exercise for me anyway, to kind of have my photos more readily available, some of my best photos that I've ever taken. But yeah, but I would like to be able to pull out this photo book and invite my guests, or people that I may hand this photo book to experience my photos in this very tactile way, in what I think is a much more charming way. Now, this photo here is called the first, and this is placeholder text. But what I will say is that this was the first photograph that ever led me to think that I could be a photographer, that I could have the talent enough to be a photographer. That not only was I kind of into this thing, but that maybe I was good at it. And that's because it was so suboptimal. I look at this photo, and again, all I see are so many flaws and imperfections, but it's just every time I see it, I just have that connection. This photo, I don't think that it has the technical acuity of some of the other ones, but it has the soul that can only come from that connection between you and that moment as a photographer or as the artist in this case. So that's why I'm gonna call it the first or something. I don't know if I'm gonna call it the first at the end of the day. But over here, like I said, this is a work in progress, and I guess we're gonna progress through it. Okay, what else do we have? Yeah. Oh, you know what? Let me temporarily disable the camera screen just so that you can see a little bit more of the pages necessary without my face in the way. But yeah, so yeah, some of my photographs. This page is definitely going to be changed. I'm not so sure if I love this particular frame down here. Not sure if in this particular collection is going to be something that fits very nicely there. But yeah, I like this one though. I've been working on this one today. Droplets. I think these ones are Not necessarily final. No, this is final. Like I said, I'm nowhere near to be able to say, oh, it could be final, but I like this idea of like celebrating raindrops. And yeah, so these are moments in my life that I really enjoyed. I've got to say, since we're here, hues of blue. The last few years of my life have not been particularly fruitful, I want to say, or how to put it, particularly fortuitous, or easily bent towards the best of myself. That's a very long window of saying they've been kind of shite. And these photos were created before then. And in a way, creating this photo book is a way to reconnect with a time in my life where I had more freedom and expression in so many of the things, so many areas of my life and everything like that. So, your boy's been going through a few, and I'm trying to get out of it. I'm trying to move my way, motion my way out of some of the holes that I found myself at the bottom of. And yeah, this one is one of my favorite photographs I've ever taken. This is one where I'm just like, there's just something about this where I feel like this is it. I'm not sure if I would ever take a better photograph than this one. Arguable, obviously. Hopefully, I take much better photographs than even this, but I really love this photo. I'm not sure if anybody loves this photo as much as I do, but I personally do. And considering it's my photo book and it's my photography and a celebration of my art, I think I'm allowed to have favorites. So there we go. And then this is one that I really, really like. This one over here on the right. I feel it's a little bit constrained. I think maybe I should push it a little bit, I'm gonna use a little bit more of that space. But I love its simplicity. It's just chef's kiss. There's just some moments where this is one of those things where I saw the image in my head, I pointed my camera at it, I took it, and it came out almost perfect. In fact, this photo is so lightly edited because I feel like every time I've tried to edit it even slightly, it just deviates away from the perfection that came out straight out the camera. So it has got a very soft touch on the edit, and I absolutely love that. Nobody else will know, but I do. And like I said, I'm your favorites. So yeah, there's only a few more pages, by the way. The photo book will probably have about 100 or so, maybe like 160, 200 pages. I would like it to be like something quite substantial. Oh, by the way, this quote over here, this is a placeholder quote. Dude, it's so cheesy. Please don't look at it. It's awful. I'm gonna click away now. Yeah, this is one of my favorite photos here. This is a great photo. I love that photo. But this is one of my favorites. The story behind it, the whimsy of it, it's so cool to me. I just love it. So yeah, that was cool. Yeah. Let me know what if you know what? This is fair. This is fair to say. If you have stuck with me through this 1.5 hour thing and you get to see these photos, which by the way, apparently we ran out of, yeah, look at that. Boom. We ran out of space. Okay. And you got to see all of those photos, then maybe that's fair. Maybe that's your reward for having stuck with me this entire time, and maybe you deserve to see that. Matter of fact, let me show you some more photos that you wouldn't have gotten to see because they're not in the book yet. So yeah, I will share more photos. Isn't that nice of me? Okay, let's see. So we can just start here and we're just gonna tap through and look, my face can come back. Hold on. There we go. Right? So yeah, maybe this is fair. You got to sit down with me. You spent all this time. We're having this conversation. Thank you so much for being here, by the way. We're just going to go and quickly tap through these photos. Obviously, some of these you would have seen from the book, but this is it. This is like my best work. All of these are macro flower photography. So obviously I've taken things besides macro and flowers, and like I said, I would love to be able to share these with you again, but this is cool. This particular lens is you might see this super blurry. It's a lens, it's called a lens baby. And what it's supposed to do is give you this dreamy look and everything like that. And I absolutely love it, but it's very hard to connect with some of the photos that it creates because it creates so much blur, so much what would you call it? This ethereal sense of dreamlike state. It creates that with such abundance that I actually haven't shot on it much. But some of the photos that are on it I absolutely love. So to me, these photos are all about the essence of the flower or the subject. rather than the form of it. It's about the nature of the thing, and I absolutely love what it can do. That dreaminess is absolutely great. But like I said, I have very few photos of that, even in this collection, because I just find it so challenging to work with. But that's on me. I need to go out there, restart my photography in full grace, and get back there and reconnect again and find ways to use the different tools. This is another one shot by that lens, baby. Again, that very dreamlike texture to it. It's very nice, very different from what we usually get. Now, it can be done also with this other lens that I use, my 90mm macro, but it just has a different quality to it. There's a difference if you pay attention to the two. So there it is. So yeah, it's just some of my best work. This one is again lost shot on our lens, baby. Absolutely love that dreamlike effect. When it works so well as to make you wonder why wouldn't you always shoot like this? But let me tell you, man, out of all the frames that I take, maybe 10 or 15%, maybe 5% are actual keepers. Actually less than that, maybe 2% are actual keepers with that lens. So there's just a very high failure rate for me. But maybe it's just my philosophy. Maybe sometimes I'm just stuck on like sharpness and technicalities and details and everything like that. So yeah. um yeah, spiders, Australia, we're famous for it, so I have to pay attention to that. So yeah, this is another one shot by that lens, baby. I can always recognize them, but there's only a few of them in this collection, so there we go. mm. Otherwise, all of them are shot with my macro lens. But yeah, anyways, we're supposed to be signing off, right? So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to say thank you for paying attention to all of this. Let me know what you think about everything that we touched on. Like I said, I wasn't really sure where the conversation was going to go. I just wanted to sit down, talk for a bit, reminisce about the past, and maybe express some frustration about how some of the things have turned out to be, because I feel like we deserved a better present than what we got. I feel like these companies, they lost it at some point. They became too focused on making as much money as possible on subscription services, on being able to generate user data and then sell that data onwards, or use it for their own internal processes to then sell us more things. Things are planned obsolescence became way too rampant. We've gone off the cliff and we need to get back on the road. And I just realized that all of these things connected. Everything that I do, I was taking a walk today and I was like, wow, this is just such a wonderful thing to do, because I've been walking more lately, but I was kind of walking with like the desire to, do it as part of my fitness and everything like that, right? Uh, Whereas today I just went for a walk, just to stretch my legs, just to stretch my mind. Actually, my legs were fine, really. I went playing table tennis recently, so my legs are like actually quite exhausted. But my mind needed that relaxation, and I just realized that, man, as I'm coming towards this holiday period, that is the number one thing I want to get right these holidays. I want to just decompress and bring tactility back even in my art form. Like this photo book has done for me such a wonderful thing that hasn't happened probably in the last 3 years. My photography just, you know, yeah. So, anyways, those are the thoughts rummaging around my head. And you know what? Since we still have a few photos to go through. Listen, people, please, hold on, my thing just threw up an error message. Sorry. Anyways, what I was saying is that people, please play your games. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how you play games. I prefer PlayStation. You might prefer another medium, but play your games and play those tactile games. Play those games where you are playing for the fun of it, especially these holidays. Play for the fun of it, not because you're trying to chase a high score or a battle pass or a trophy room or whatever. I mean, shout out to Shonky the King having 1600 platinums and everything, and it's wonderful for people that are generally enjoy that process of having getting more and more trophies and everything like that. But play because it's fun. Play because you're enjoying the medium. Play because you're enjoying the narrative. This is another lens, baby, I want to say. Maybe. Actually, no, I don't think it is. It doesn't matter. I'll forget what I said. Actually, it might be. Whatever. Let's keep going. Play your games, is all I was saying. And yeah, I hope that you enjoy them. I hope that you enjoy them. I hope that you take your time to simply, again, do it because it's fun. Do it because you love the medium. And don't let, like I keep saying to people, do not let these grifters, these people online take your joy away from the thing that you love, you know? So, yeah. Now we have a few of these to go through. I think we're still about halfway because this is I think I have about 200 or so. I think it's 196 photos in this collection because not all of them are obviously going to make it into the book. But I wanted to have like a good sample of some of my best work when it came to the flowers and everything. And I guess since not all these are not lens baby shot, very dreamy sequence, so that one's pretty good, easy to recognize. So yeah, I think I'll know when I'm getting closer towards the end though, and we're pretty much gonna sign off, quickly at the end. Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think about the conversation format? Just this is it. We just have conversations. We just talk. This is another lens baby one. This one I feel conflicted about. I feel like I didn't get the balance right. Also, this was an old sensor, and it really struggled with the colors, like the redder colors. It made them a little bit too neon, not enough detail in them. So I never really loved this photo. I kind of still have it in here. Let me know what you think if you made it this far. Jesus Christ, you're gonna need timestamps for everything. And Lord knows I'm not gonna help you. So Jesus, take your time, find it again, make comments with timestamps so we know what we're talking about. Also struggles with like heavy blues. Apparently blue is like the rarest color in nature. Like it's very hard to have like a blue flower and everything like that. I'm not sure if that's 100,000% true, but I think it is. So little trivia for you. The color blue, aside from the sky, if our sky wasn't blue, there's a good chance that most humans in the olden days would have lived their entire lives without seeing the color blue. Isn't that crazy? If it wasn't for the sky being blue, because very few things in nature are actually blue. you know. So that was like a fun fact that I learned at some point. And again, I hope it's a fact and not a complete thing that I'm just misleading you on after being misled myself. But we need to have trust in people. So I'm going to trust that the thing that I just said is true because somebody else said it to me, and now I'm saying it to you. You can fact check it though. Let me know if it's true. But yeah, this is one of my favorite photos. This is a nice one. What I like the most about this one is that it just has this wonderful. I call them the ribs, but obviously there's a proper name for them. But I like the way that it leads you like right into the eye, and then it's got that same pattern. I see these stripes over here. This thing's got the stripes there in his eyes as well there. So I've always loved this photo. That's one of like when you see that you're like, damn, you're a genius. That's one of those. That is one of those. Oh, also, fun fact, sunflowers terrify me. Sunflowers terrify me. I remember one time I went to a garden, there were sunflowers and they turned with the sun. I was there for a while shooting all the photos, and they were always turning as the sun was turning. And I felt like I could just see all of these thousands of eyes, because there were thousands of them, thousands of eyes looking at me because the sun was behind me. I mean, the sun was behind me because I need to shoot onto the flower. You understand the process. The point is, there were thousands of flower eyes looking at me, and it was absolutely petrifying and terrifying. So sunflowers completely freak me out. Not like individually, not like one sunflower terrifies me, but like thousands of sunflowers staring at you. Bro, they look like alien. They look like portals for alien eyes, So yeah, fun fact about me: sunflowers terrify me in large quantities. I'm not talking like a few dozen, even though a few dozen is already pretty scary. But when you have hundreds of them or thousands of them, like I did, bro, I don't know. That's just a terrifying thing. Oh, one of my favorite photos. Caught that bee exactly in the right position. You saw that one before, though. So there's that. Also, this one over here, if you are like trypophobic or like what is those things where you're like scared of holes or whatever, not a great shot. Not as terrifying as the sunflowers, but that's because I didn't have thousands of these staring at me. Otherwise, it probably would have been. So there it is. Yeah. Oh yeah, here's a photo of a sunflower. So yeah, this was the day I was shooting. I'm telling you, man, dead on hundreds of thousands of these looking at you. Boy, I don't know, man. It's terrifying. It's terrifying. This one I call the marshmallow. Those are the things remind me of marshmallows. Uh, See, it's like this, right? But more creepy, and thousands of them. I don't know. You tell me. This I don't think that's like a common fear. People are like, I'm scared. I'm not scared of sunflowers. They're just terrifying. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm not scared of them because I know they're not gonna hurt me. But if they could hurt me, I will be like petrified. That's what I will be. So fun fact there that you learn at like 1 hour and 42 minutes in that Emmanuel is terrified of sunflowers because they are horrific in large quantities. That's what they are. So yeah, there's an orchid. An orchid is, I believe, it is the most beautiful flower to look at and the hardest to photograph the beauty of. I struggle so much to photograph orchids beautifully. And that's on me. That's me needing to be better. I'm not saying it can't be done. Of course, it has been done, but that's on me. As a photographer, I struggle to photograph orchids, and it's one of the best photos of orchids I've ever taken. But even then, I feel like I am missing out like 90% of its essence and its true beauty. It's so hard for me to get that right. But I'll just get better, right? I have time, right? I'm still so I can move my legs, right? And so I'll just go get more, photograph more orchids until eventually I figure out a way to do it justice. At least to like a 60% level. I love this flower. I don't know what it is called. Don't ask me any of these things, by the way. I'm not a botanist, or a plant expert of any type, but I think flowers are beautiful. So there it is. Boom. Now, could you imagine? You look at all of this photography and you're like, damn, you suck. And it's supposed to be my best. Could you imagine? You're just like, wow, this kid has no chance. I call this one ladybug for obvious reasons, but I don't know if it is a ladybug. So, you know, apparently I'm not an insect lover or expert as well. So, I just call it things, call it, I like this one. I had a name for it too. It was like a cotton candy. Yeah, I think it was cotton candy for this one. I like that one. I like this one. It's I call it like the hidden surprise because it just looks like those petals are about to unfold and like reveal like two tickets to that thing you love. I'm on a horse. Remember that commercial? That was a great commercial. Okay. I love this shot. One day I will go and I will dissect this shot and I will pretend it's so much grander than it actually is, but I absolutely love it. Okay, so there we go. Look, we still have a few to go, so now we're just gonna have to make conversation. I don't know, type in the comments. I don't know why you're wasting time looking at all the screen. There's so much more time to go. Here's that first photo, kind of it's all of its glory. So yeah, appreciate it. The one that made me think that could be good. Yeah. I would like to think that some of the other ones that you saw before are technically better than this and you enjoy them better, but maybe you can still appreciate this one. Okay, let's move forward. But yeah, so as I was saying, we still have a few minutes to go through, but like type your thoughts about the entire video, whatever you want to talk about, you talk about your thing. Like, I don't know. It's fine. Like, let's have a conversation, as they say. I'll read it, even if I don't necessarily reply, but that's just because I'm lazy and laziness is a virtue of mine. But, there's that nice little spider there. I think the spider makes the shot. I think I actually have some shots of this without the spider, and it just wasn't the same. And again, I like these little tines there. I don't know what they're called, but these little tines there where the light shines through. I just think that is so beautiful. And I love how subtle it is. It really makes you have to like pay attention to the whole photograph to find the little beauty. So yeah, that's cool. I like those. Okay, this one is nice. This one looks like a plant that in 300 million years is going to evolve to kill people. That's what that looks like. That looks like a bioweapon in the making, and I like it. I really like this photo. Again, the bug makes this plant, this shot. It would be so much more uninteresting without it. So there it is. This one's cool. It's just interesting without any bug. Yeah, got a few different versions of this. I really like that one. I have to go back and shoot more. My bees. I like bees. Bees are so cool. If I do get the opportunity to build a home on my own, my garden will be whatever plants and flowers are most fruitful and most conducive to bees. Just whatever, like lavender and things like that. I just want to have bees around. They're cool. They never stung me or anything like that. They've always been hard workers. I don't think that there's any reason for bees to sting you. Don't get in their way. They won't get in yours. This is towards the end, guys. We made it. This is the lens baby part because I did realize that I wanted to show more lens baby shots. So I have a lot of all of these guys now are lens baby shots, and I know this is at the end of the collection. So we only have about 10 more photos to go. So there we go. Like I said, I've been working on this for a few days now, so I can keep track of where we are. Okay. This one's nice. I think this one should definitely be in the photo book. I like the movement there. Looks like it's dancing in the wind. I'll probably call it something pretentious at dancing in the wind, you know. So there it is. Never skip an opportunity as an artist with an E at the end to be semi-pretentious in your own work. You know, it's part of the charm, really. As you can tell, this photos are a little bit underexposed, but that's because I just kind of pulled them last minute. Haven't worked on them or done any editing to them, so you know, please forgive. But you know, we're amongst friends. This one should probably be called Dancing in the Rain. This is a fantastic shot. This one of those where I feel like I took that lens baby lens and I did it right. Like I got the movement, I got the dreamlike quality, I got enough sharpness that your eye has something to rest on, but it's like it's so flowy, it's so ethereal, it's so airy. Oh, wonderful shot. Hey, listen, I haven't seen this one in a while. I'm tooting my own horn here, but yeah. Okay, well, this is this is what I would say. This is the perfect shot, and this one is the shot that you would think is pretty good unless you have seen this one. So yeah, this was a pretty good shot. But this one, I feel like I got the balance right. I got the interest, I got the movement, I got the little tines going every which way. This one I'll probably delete. Yeah, this one's a similar idea, you know. Like I said, you know, this one's again another one where I feel like I just didn't quite nail it, you know? I didn't nail it. This one I feel like I might have nailed it too much. Those are angry. Those are angry blood vessels. Like Jesus Christ. What this looks like a plant that will ask Superman, "Do you bleed?" You know, this is it looks like that plant. Again, in 300 million years, we should not be around this planet. We need to get off this rock because these things are coming for us. That's crazy. Okay, that's the end of that particular production. So, nearly 2 hour video. What did you think? All of that. Hit up the comment section if you're still here. Jesus Christ. I told you to put up a seat though. My tea's gone cold, but still. It was what I hope was a great conversation. And I'm going to upload this video. Then I'm going to delete it from my hard drive because it's probably 50 gigs. So yeah. I'll talk to you guys later. It was wonderful chatting with you.